Okay, I think it's going to be quite just a little short video, this one. Domain and range. Now, we don't really deal with range in this class, but domain. Now, we talked about this in chapter 2. The domains, it's all about really the x-axis. It's what kind of values you can put into an equation. Okay. Now, if we go back to that grade one, okay, remember the equation? It was a, the average. Now we're going to write it in function notation now, a of s. Okay. The average was 335 plus s, in other words, whatever your final score is. Remember, this first number here was the first 4 tests total. Whatever you get for the last one, then divide by 5, because it's now 5 tests. Now what we're saying here is what's the practical domain, is what values of s, okay, can I put into this? It's like, okay, this is the x-axis. Remember that average is the answer, the y-axis, that's how you graph it. Okay, what values of s on the x-axis will produce the average on the y-axis. Now, if you think about this, the practical domain, and think about this, you're doing a test. Well, the practical domain is this. It's anything between 0 and 100, because that's the only numbers you can get on a test, all right? Unless you get extra credit, all right? So that's it, the domain would do this. Okay, I can get nothing on a test. I can get 1%, I can get 20%, terribly, I can get 75%, that's a C. I can get 90%, that's an A. I can get 100%. So that's the practical domain, okay? That's what that means. What can I put into there? Of course I can't put 2 billion into there. I wouldn't put -3. I don't think I can do a test where I get -3, okay? So that's what that's talking about. Now, you don't have to worry about range, but you can kind of read that collection of all the replacement values that make sense, all right? Again, for a test, 0 to 100. Now, remember that one I did about number of students going on that trip, okay? If I can kind of flip over to it, remember this, okay? So number of students. Okay, 10 students, 15 students, okay. I guess you could have no students going on the trip. You wouldn't have, I don't know, 2,000. You don't really have that. So think about on a bus as well. You might have, think about a class, okay, up to 30 students. Maybe 50 students if quite a lot of students are going. So this is what we're talking about. There's no specific one for this one. Definitely with a test, it can only be between 0 and 100, unless, of course, somebody gives you extra credit. But number of students, yeah, that's a bit of a grey area, but you know, you're not going to get 1,000 students going on a school trip. Not really, okay? So, you know, 30 students from a class might go on a school trip, 50 students, you know, from a certain grade, maybe 100 students. This is okay for a practical domain. You know, like I say down here, they've said, okay, what's the C of 37? 37 students going on a trip. I wouldn't do what's C, what's the cost for 1 million students. You know, I'm not going to do this. I could put it into the equation and get some crazy answer out, okay, but I'm not going to do that, all right? Okay, now the other thing is range. Now we don't really deal in range, because remember, range is just the answer, all right? And that just depends on the equation. Again with this, you know, your average, well, that's not too bad. Your average will be, you know, somewhere in the maybe 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, you know, A, B and C average. That's okay, but the cost of something, that, again, everything depends on what you put in for X, right? If I put some huge numbers in for X, I'll get huge numbers out for Y, the answers. So range we don't deal too much in, because, you know, domain's the important thing. It's what I put in. The range, the answers, is just what I get out, and that could be anything. It just depends on the equation. So I can't really say what the practical range, practical kind of values of the range is really. Depends on the equation. So remember, domain's the important thing, and that's what we deal with, okay? What do you think I can put into the equation? No silly numbers.